All. This is Dr. Mobeen Sayed from Drbeen.com. Welcome to one more show. And today, Jim is number one. So Jim is first. Odrasir is second. Ruby's third. Arubaga fourth. Diaz fifth. Dr. Bean Laura needs some medical advice. And Laurie is fifth. Emily is there as well. Okay, so we'll do this. All right. So how is everyone? Sorry that I switched the day on you, but I thought it was important. Laura, then she must go to a hospital right away. I hope she's okay. Okay, so let's have a quick chit chat for some time, and then we will stop and we'll do the open forum tomorrow. Did any of you, hey Siddhartha, how are you? Did any of you watch that video, 6 minutes video with ivermectin? What was your, what did you think about it? Roller Girl says, how was your birthday? It was excellent. So as much as I wanted to stop and just have my birthday, what I did was after the talk, I was just so excited. I started making this new video about ivermectin. And then I spent almost majority of the evening and night editing it as well. So I was just busy in that. But we did enjoy. We had some cake and we enjoyed some good food as well. So Jim, I had published that video on my personal channel. And the reason for that, I explained it in my previous discussion. Let me show you the link here. Let me go there. The reason I published it on my personal channel was that there are some things I cannot say on this more business-like channel. So, one second. So that channel at the moment only has one video, but I am going to start placing some more videos. So here is the channel. The channel is simply called Mobeen Sayed, the name. So I'm going to put the link here if you like. This video is just 6 minutes. So if you read, today we're going to talk about the mechanism of action. This is what I was doing. So it is funny that for a small channel with I only had 2 subscribers when I posted it yesterday. Now there are 83 subscribers and there is 1,046 views. Anyway, so thank you very much for everyone who was there. Going back here. Eugenie Brida says, I never know how to get here. What link do I get to be here first? I spent 10 minutes looking for the chit chat each time. I am so sorry about that. If you have hit the subscribe and bell notification, usually YouTube would automatically send you a notification for Dr. Bean is Live. So Nancy says a 72-year-old friend went to the Virginia or Veterans, Virginia today for his first COVID shot and was given 2 separate doses. Have you heard of this? No. I have not heard of 2. He was given same day 2 separate doses? That is weird. What happened? Burge? So I just saw folks saying sorry for your loss to Burge. So I was trying to figure out where is Burge's message, but I didn't. So DDS said that so sorry, Burge, and Roller Girl said, Burge, I'm sorry for your loss. I can't see Burge here. Lying Guy says, are there any treatment for viruses laying dormant in our bodies? So, so far, no. And this is why this pandemic, as horrible this time is, there is one outcome of this, and that is the advancement in antivirals and a hope to find new antivirals. And as we're finding a lot of drugs as well. So I think that there is going to be some focus on these kind of viruses that just stick in us for longer period of time. So I think there would be now advancement. Oh, here, Burj, my friend died today from COVID. I am so sorry, Burj. Sorry for your loss. So sorry about that. It is difficult. It is. There are actually today when I was preparing this studies and writing down, and I was writing down the number of deaths, and I was thinking that how used to we have become of talking about death on daily basis because of this evil virus. So I hope, and I think what is really missing is the medical leadership. This has been, I'm saying it since April of last year. Medical leadership has to rise up and say clearly that vitamin D's are necessary, K2 is necessary, melatonin is necessary, vitamin C is necessary, CoQ10 is necessary, glutathione is necessary. Then please make sure if you are in that age group that needs aspirin or blood thinners, then take them. If you are going to be needing a prophylaxis, which majority of us do, take ivermectin for prophylaxis, maybe take it bi-weekly, take it monthly, then allow hydroxychloroquine, zinc, quercetin to be given. These things should be available and made public by the leaders, because until they say it, it would stay like a conspiracy theory that one doctor said it is good and the other doctor said it is not good, and the proponent of something have their own doctors saying it works, and the opponents of something have their own doctors saying it doesn't work. And so how do we know what works and not work when there are two doctors? I'll give you an example that 2 days ago, a very published and popular doctor sent me an not a doctor, epidemiologist, sent me an email saying that you have been having Dr. Marek on your show, and he talks about one of the drugs, and he's not very comfortable with it, and this is wrong. You should take down his videos, because if people are not using hydroxy, then that would kill people. And I responded and I said, number one, I had actually requested you in the past to come join us. And number two, I have talked about hydroxy so many times, and all cool beans know that I am a proponent of hydroxy. So why not come in and talk about it? And he refused again. But this would continue to happen until the leadership, the folks who approve the algorithms for drugs, for example, FDAs or CDCs or NIH, they need to officially accept these things and say, we accept them as EUAs. They should be used. Here are the risks. Make those risks aware to the patient. Have waiver. If you are afraid of somebody suing you, then maybe have a waiver. This is an exceptional time, and then continue to give these things. So I'm very disappointed at this time. I'm very disappointed at the leadership, medical leadership in general, and doctors fighting with each other. It's just terrible while people are dying. William Goff says, I'm very interested in both colchicine and fluvoxamine. Which of the two, colchicine or fluvoxamine, do you feel works better? So fluvoxamine for sure um, for the issues which are neurological, and colchicine generally to prevent cytokine storm. My thinking will be that fluvoxamine has to be joined with ivermectin or with colchicine, because fluvoxamine's action on the brain is something that neither colchicine nor ivermectin can match. So fluvoxamine has to become a standard addition. Although remember that fluvoxamine can cause side effects to the point of a tendency for suicide. So it has to be very carefully used. But fluvoxamine should become a standard. With that, I believe ivermectin should become a standard. And high-risk patients, for example, someone you think need bamlanivimab, that someone should also get colchicine. And if somebody who's already on colchicine, they should be a little bit happy that at least there is some benefit there. And so Burge, lost my friend to COVID, they didn't give ivermectin. This is what really makes me angry. I have seen this so many times now, that people come to me and they tell me that my friend, my family member, there is a patient here whose father, they are sick, they are about to die, and they still refuse to give ivermectin. So they would let a patient die, but not offer something that may give hope. And I think this is the fault, once again, not just the doctors. The fault is that they are afraid that if we give ivermectin and the patient still dies, we will be sued that you gave something out of the protocol. This is why CDC's, NIH, and FDA type things have to come up and say, we are okay if you administer these. Luckily for ivermectin, at least they have changed the protocol to say, or their message to say, fine, they used to be against it, now they are not against or pro. But they should actually look at these studies and say, we are. I am actually going to do a talk about the hypocrisy of NIH for approving some drugs with the smaller sizes of the trials and rejecting some drugs saying they don't have the right trial sizes. And we'll see that how bad they are behaving. Yeah, compassionate use. Absolutely. Correct, you're correct. So there was an investigational journalist who had called me a couple of days ago. So again, most of the discussion is what she would decide what to put in her piece or not. But what was interesting was that she wanted to ask me that, do you know of someone who has been censored by Twitter or Facebook or YouTube? And I said, I am the first one. And I was looking at my videos, so she asked me to send her some proof as well. So I was looking at my videos in April or May. I did ivermectin video that was censored and took down, and it is still down. I had a copy of it, which I uploaded again in July, and it was then left up. And then I had another bunch of videos that were taken down, and they're still down. Hydroxychloroquine was taken down. I appealed it and it came back, but that was taken down. Even today, Twitter, when you share some of the tweets, they say that this is a misinformation, or they remove my videos after the live is over to say this broadcast is not available. And even till today, when some cool beans share my Facebook posts, Facebook blogs, I'm saying this is misinformation. This is how horrible. It looks like we are leaderless. We are readerless. We're just on our own. Really bad. Okay, so let's continue. Denise says, I learned about ivermectin from you being used in Pakistan and had sent from family in India. Yeah, so ivermectin, first study came from Australia, then it was used in Pakistan, it was used in Bangladesh, then it started becoming more and more popular. And these countries, in India, it has been used as well. They have been giving packets. So when I tweeted that picture of the packet, somebody said, is this real or not? So I did not know, but I'm assuming it is correct. And look at the benefit that they have gotten. I thought in the beginning of pandemic, I thought that developing countries or countries with lesser resources may not have the right tool sets to take care of it. And the countries that are more resourceful, that are richer, that have more mature systems in them would actually take care of their people the best. And if you think about it, it actually became the reverse. Patricia Hook. Question: is there concern that ivermectin is being diverted from people who use it for example, strongyloides? Possible, but I hope that those who need them would still be able to get it. But yeah, there is a possibility. Whose brother? DDS is saying yes, that is his brother. Iskalka says, bravo, Dr. Mubin, I so respect both your search for the truth and courage. I had done a talk about WHO as well with the books from past. And I talked with that journalist as well, that it is not new to know that coronaviruses spread fast with respiratory system, with breath, and masks help or goggles help. It is written in books, in microbiology books. I have my microbiology books here, 2006, and I did a video about that. Same thing. I think we need to do more. Let's continue. Lying Guy says, how can we tell if ivermectin may be useful for other viruses? Most important thing for ivermectin is the following. A virus that may have RDRP or 3-chymotrypsin-like enzyme usage, ivermectin can help there. That is one. Secondly, any virus that can use importin alpha and beta, which one can see from the virus's replication and virus's mechanism of actions to see if they use alpha or beta or not, we can know that it would help there as well. And then finally, it has to be tested. Just like somebody dared in Australia, they dared to test ivermectin for this. So we should dare to test other drugs for various viruses. Don't test them in a human being, test them in a petri dish or in vitro, and then come back and say, okay, this may be useful. B12, no ivermectin for babies. Yeah, it can be dangerous, yes. Laura, why do I not see Laura's messages? So, no, not at all. Saf says, could my wife in the first trimester take ivermectin? Not at all. This is especially sensitive time because the new organs, especially brain structures, are forming. Not at all. Don't even bring her near this. Where is Laura? What is going on? I actually don't see Laura's messages, but I see folks talking about her. Patricia says, Simple Steve says, could colchicine be used along with ivermectin? Would there be any benefits? Dosage altered or not? Absolutely can be used with ivermectin. They both have different mechanism of actions. So ivermectin is going to help you against the virus, and colchicine is going to help you against cytokine storm. So they both can be taken together. The only thing is, ivermectin is not as dangerous as colchicine can be, because colchicine is going to reduce the production of new cells, causing secondary side effects in GIT and blood. Laura, so Laura is feeling very ill. Laura, can you not call 911? You have to please go to hospital right away. Mr. J says, we talked about 3 clades targeted in PCR test with mutations in the double digits. How likely has some mutations evaded all 3 clades? Not so. So far, we haven't found any people who are infected and then they look like COVID, but when they went for PCR test, they were not positive. There are some cases where one of the channel has been failing, but all 3 are not yet failed. Dean says, I watched your Avomatin video, loved it. Thank you very much. It was quite a departure for me from going for 1 hour, 2 hour videos to 6 minutes video. But I thought it was, oh, so here, Laura, so you have headache. Laura, 911 is scary. Have you checked your blood pressure? Is this something that is common? It is. Blood pressure is the first thing to check. Patricia says, thank you for your video on mask. You're very welcome. So Terry says that what dose of colchicine do you recommend? I would stay within the studies. Once again, why? Because there is no dose for COVID that has been seen before. So I would stay within that framework because they have already tested it. So as you can see, 0.5 milligram. I know that for gout, we can give it 1.2 milligram and then another few hours later, another 1.2 milligram, and then 1.2 milligram later on. But I would stay with this drug therapy that is in these studies. So WHO released a memo January 2021 saying PCR tests alone should not be used as any symptoms or second test to confirm a case. Used and symptoms or second, absolutely. So this is, I had done a discussion, I think in May timeframe. You can actually find that video called Positive Predictive Value. So let's think about that for a second together. Imagine we are all doctors, and we know that in this area, Cupertino, there is a widespread of COVID-19. And if that is the case, and if you see someone who is coughing and who may have fever and myalgias or other COVID-19 like symptoms, you might suspect even without a test to say this person may have COVID. Correct? So that is called the positive predictive value of some test. So test is not even done yet, but the chances of that being positive are already high just by looking at a person clinically because of the epidemiology of that environment. On the other hand, if, for example, let's say COVID-19 has been zero in Cupertino, and then you see somebody who is coughing and who may have fever, your first impression should not be COVID. That may be depending upon what is prevalent in the society or cold or something else. Now, take it from here to this point that if in a society there is COVID and the PCR test is done and it is positive, then what you have to do as a doctor is to see PCR is positive plus what is the society's state. Is there more COVID there? If so, then you can probably say that, yeah, this should be COVID. Or if you are doubtful, then get one more, within 24 hours, one more test that is called lateral test. And then based on these two, you can say it is positive or not. So you have to keep positive predictive value in your mind. April says that, can children do the Avomatin prophylactic protocol? I have 10 and 12-year-old, both are about 95. I have been doing the full prophylaxis. So I'm going to bank on Dr. Marik's discussion that day. So, and I'll go to the literature as well. Children are given ivermectin very often for worms worldwide. The prophylaxis, Dr. Marik's prophylaxis is bi-weekly. And the therapy for children is that child's weight should be more than 15 kilogram, and their age should be more than two years. The reason for that is that this is enough of a time that the brain, even if the last myelinations are happening, they have become done. So here, again, I cannot give specific things, but if I have a family who have children 10, 12 years of age, they can take prophylaxis. I would probably not give them weekly as I do. I would probably give them once a month or twice a month. Remember that once a month in Malaysia, they did was one dose today and then another dose third day, and that's it. Stop for the whole month and then repeat. Or as FLCCC's protocol is, and that is every biweekly one dose. Colin says, how are undernourished and close-quartered people in immigrant camps globally not making the news with COVID outbreaks? Maybe there are two things. Maybe that the herd immunity is developing, or maybe people are not caring, the news are not caring for bringing those messages up. So Blue Dragonfly says, why is kidney damage common in COVID-19 and what can be done to help? So please realize this, it is not common in mild cases. Kidney damage can become common when the severity increases, and the reasons are two. First reason is that the virus itself can actually attach to the ACE2 in kidney. Kidneys have the most dense presence of ACE2 enzyme. After the kidney, then GIT, then cardiovascular system, then respiratory system, then brain. So kidneys are very densely populated with ACE2, and if virus has reached a point where it is actually getting out of the blood vessels and traveling to the rest of the body, then it can affect kidney. And second reason that kidney can become affected is that when the cytokine storm or when the sepsis started occurring, or not even at that stage, when the disease has reached a point where blood pressure fluctuations have started occurring, where thrombosis has started occurring, that lower blood pressure can reduce the blood flow to the kidney, which would cause very rapid kidney deterioration. So what do you do about it? In normal cases, you don't have to do much. Your body is taking care of things. But if it is a serious case where the patient's kidney are at risk and they are in the hospital, that is where the doctors have a tremendous job to figure out, how do we keep the patient dry? Dry meaning the patient doesn't have enough fluids to keep building up in the lungs. At the same time, how do we keep the kidneys wet? Because if the kidneys go dry, then they would get damaged. So the doctors have to give enough fluids and the diuretics to keep the kidney wet. At the same time, not too much to fill up the lungs. So that is something only doctors with all of their labs and equipments and with continuous monitoring can do. Mr. J says, is oxygen level dropping usually first symptom? Could I trust the O2 sensor for early detection? Yes, so I'm going to respond to this by using Dr. Bruce Patterson's message. That cutoff point of 93% oxygenation and falling below is a very, very important point. What happens is that when we have two types of damage to the respiratory system with the virus, one is that the virus itself damaging the tissue. Normally our tissue would recover or we will not go down that much. But this virus is so horrible that it can start with atypical pneumonia and then convert into typical pneumonia and cause lots of tissue damage. So that can reduce the oxygen saturation. And second is when the septic shock starts occurring, or when the cytokine storm starts occurring and the lungs start filling with the fluids, that is another time when oxygen would start dropping. So yes, oxygen drop below 93 is an indication that there is something going on and you need to talk with the doctors or be in the hospital. Although nowadays what I'm seeing is that there has been tolerance for drop even below 93. So I know that there are some of the patients, so some of my friends, doctors, that even at 88 or 85, they don't bring them to hospital and still keep, helping them at home or in outpatient. But that is every doctor's individual opinion plus looking at the patient. Normally, from 93 and below is when it becomes serious. So yes, so ivermectin with food or not, ivermectin's bioavailability is better with food. Um, so is that Laura? How is she doing? Japan. Thank you, Dr. Mean from Japan. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say, I'm a dreamer. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one. Well, and I would love to definitely. I have been telling my family that as soon as the pandemic is over, I'm going to go around the world and meet all the cool beans. Where is Laura? How is she doing? I'm so sorry that. So here, Laura. I guess she thinks I should take them, but she gave them because it's what I asked for. So I'm just scrolling through this to see Laura's questions or Laura's comments. Laura, get medical help. Yes. Laura, why are you not calling 911 or why are you not calling your doctor? This is not right to have some serious thing and stay at home. Um, I'm seeing a lot of messages for Laura, so I hope she's okay. Where is Laura? So Laura says, doctor not helping. Why, Laura? So maybe we should stop our talk and maybe I can talk with Laura separately. Janet says 9166 and nauseous. Is that what is happening? And Laura, what is your normal blood pressure? If the blood pressure is this is not normal, the one important thing that you can do right now is to, and again, I'm not your doctor, I cannot do this, but when it happens in my home to someone, I usually, and if I do not have enough medicines available, I usually ask them to take a half boiled egg with salt on it and take water and some electrolytes. That usually helps, and take some water and lie down, and that helps elevate the blood pressure. In the severe cases, when again, if you're not in the ER, what I have been doing with my patients is that I ask them to put their legs, raise their legs on pillow that drain some of the fluids from their legs towards their cardiac system and keep your head at the heart level. That kind of starts helping it. So BP 106/74 now, so that's good. Yes. So once again, a few days ago, one of my patients, a few weeks and months ago, one of my patient had taken hydroxychloroquine and their heart rate went down and their blood pressure went down. So normally it used to be 120/80 and it became something like this, 90/60. So, and they just would not want to go to hospital. So what I had requested them was half-boiled egg with salt on it, with water. Normally, some sugar is needed as well because when the water and salt has to be absorbed, we need glucose channels to be operating as well. So some sugar, maybe like half a spoon of sugar in that thing, or electrolyte fluid, keeping your head at the level of the heart and keeping your heart horizontally down and your legs on a pillow, and that improves the blood pressure right away. Let me know how it is, Laura. Yes, yes. So Gatorade. And if everything else is not present, take a glass of water, about 1/4 or lesser of salt, half spoon of teaspoon of sugar, mix them, and that should make electrolyte water at least immediately to help. Yeah, so this is the most important thing, because what I do not know, and it is incorrect of me doing this, what I'm doing, I should not. What I do not know is your history. I do not know what is your regular blood pressure, any comorbidities, any electrolyte imbalances. So because of this, it is not right. The best is to call the doctor or call someone who can take your history and then evaluate and then tell what to do. So, Dr. Bean, ketones in relation to COVID-19 talks, if you can, please. Okay, will do. Sunshine says, is turmeric bad for kidneys? I am not aware of that. We eat turmeric in our food for our whole life. Margaret says, simple garden EKG changes. So AMFCW says, Dr. Bean, kindly respond to my question on albendazole. I have to go find the question. Javier says, what drying tablet are you using? So I use Wacom tablet. I don't know. I think it is Cintiq 13. Although I have recently purchased Huion as well, and I'm going to use it with my other computer. A simple garden says, been ignoring me all week, Margaret. Who is ignoring you, simple garden? I hope you're not saying it to me. I don't ignore anyone. And I really like interacting with you, simple garden. So, Richard, have you seen the new Israel Pfizer study? Not yet, but there are a couple of things from Israel that I have kept the links and I have to go over them. Absolutely. Patricia says, who is correct, Paul or Michael Osterheim? I'm sure that they both have their own reasons. So the best is to actually talk with them and see what they are saying. Simple garden. Simple. So here, had a appointment yesterday. EKG showed left fascicular arterial block. New since COVID-19. Doctor was not concerned. Left fascicular anterior block. I kind of freaked out. Thoughts. So a simple garden. Important thing is your EKG. How was the EKG? If your heart rate is correct, if your blood pressure is correct, if your EKG was actually, other than showing this, correct, why was he not concerned? Did he think that it would go back because it is just some drugs or those things, or fascicular? Generally, so here is, I think, why he is not just too much concerned. Let me share. And again, simple garden, I usually do avoid specific things. For example, today, your question or Laura's, that is just right thing to do medically. But I'm going to just in general talk about this, that what happens is in the ventricle. So let's say this is a ventricular tissue. right? Now what happens is and if I make the septum, this is the septum. So that is the interventricular septum, and then there are two ventricles attached to the side of it. So let's say here is the second ventricle. I've just separated them out so we can see them. So now what happens is the conducting system, the bundle and then the bundle branches, they travel in the septum, and then they start going to various parts of the ventricle. Now these branches are usually so big, so in radius, that they actually have the electricity travel very fast. That is one. Secondly, once the electricity has gone to the whole of the muscle then contracts as one unit. So now imagine if one tiny branch here has not been functioning correctly. Then still, if this whole branch, if the left bundle branch or the right bundle branch was working fine and they were connecting with the ventricle, they would just bring in the electricity and the electricity would spread in the muscle correctly. So that is why many times doctors would see that how much is the impact of the block that they're seeing. If it isn't a block, for example, the whole bundle branch is blocked, then that needs further investigation and help. So without knowing exactly what effects he was seeing on the heart's activity and heart's under stress or not stress, I can't comment. But this is generally, if a doctor is going to ignore something, that simply means it is so insignificant that he's not concerned that electrical activity would not reach that tissue where that is bringing. And the reason electrical activity actually reaches every part of the ventricle or atria is that we call them functional syncytiums or units, because if this is a cardiac muscle fiber, it would give off branches and it would receive branches that would connect with the other muscle fibers. So what happens is that if you have one cardiac muscle fiber excited, it is going to excite other fibers attached to it as well. And all of those fibers are connected with each other as a unit. It is just that we bring in the electrical activity to any one of the muscle fiber or a bunch of muscle fibers, and then they just spread it amongst each other by themselves. So imagine if the electrical activity here is not brought in because there is a block here in the conducting system, but this conducting system is working fine, then the activity would reach here anyways. So if he's ignoring it, then that means there's not a significant part that is blocked, and the conduction would occur anyways. You are very welcome. Thank you. Okay, so EMFCW, I will look it up. And then Nancy says, Dr. B. Rock, thank you. I just hope that Laura feels better soon. So there was a question here from William. As I understand, this colchicine works to decrease inflammation and lower risk of cytokine storm. Do you feel colchicine works better than steroids for this? No. So the difference is that steroids in the late stage and colchicine can be given in early stage. In the early stage, when you give colchicine, it would not block immune system so tremendously that the virus would just have a free reign. That is why I actually think in the beginning, colchicine with ivermectin, so ivermectin resists the virus and colchicine modulates the immune system not to go into cytokine storm. Sanjay, can you comment on such low COVID infections and deaths in India, watching the cricket with the crowds from here in the UK? Why do you think that is? So I have been saying it for a very long time that I'm not sure exactly how the data is, But without data, looking at news and the things that come out on Twitter, so that is not the right source to form an opinion. But it looks like usage of ivermectin has been very, very important. And then in the beginning, usage of hydroxychloroquine and those things. So I think that the doctors, just like in Pakistan, they have learned to manage this with the things like hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, zinc, ivermectin, early usage of steroid, and they just take care of patients in the outdoors, situation. On the other hand, in the societies like which are more locked down in terms of what can a patient get, for example, US here we just let a patient deteriorate to the point where they need hospital, and then we say, all right, we'll figure out what to give you. If these societies were a little more open with ivermectin, hydroxys, and others, we would have very less cases as well. So that's my thinking. I don't have the right data to back it up. So, Simple Garden, where are you? I hope my answer helped a little bit. Colin says, can either the vaccine or the virus affect mood? Yes. At least we know the virus can. Vaccine can for a few days and then recover. Virus can, the long haulers and post viral infection, people do, and even during the infection, they do develop quite a lot of psychological issues. Mark says, you're incredibly knowledgeable. Were you top of the class as a school kid? Yes, so I had been topping my school and college and tests. Rizobit says, missing my Dr. Bean chat. Oh snap, it's a chat. I'm listening to Colchicine, missing my... Oh, so you were looking at watching other video. So Simple Meerkat says, India has given up on COVID. John says that new cases are rapidly dropping in US. How far are we into the herd immunity? So US has, I am not aware of any latest studies. Studies done about 7-8 months ago showed that we were 5-6%, but the way the cases are going down, I think that here is what is happening. Number one, the vaccination of the at-risk population, vaccination of the doctors. Even when they were not getting it, they could carry on their clothing and other material virus from one place to another. So these are called nosocomial transmissions. And then, of course, herd immunity developing in general as well because of people becoming sick and then becoming okay. My opinion will be, this is an opinion, so totally may be wrong, that we are at 30% or so herd immunity, and that is how the whole thing is coming down. And I think we would now continue to see the downward trends. And I am really grateful that that is happening, because we as a country didn't really do well. So Laura says, if my pulse ox goes down, and I'll call immediately. Laura, generally, how are you feeling? Denise, okay, good. Where is Simple Garden? Simple Garden says, thank you for explaining. Very, very helpful. I had absolutely no symptoms, normal sinus rhythms. Yeah, so that is why he's not very much concerned. If your sinus rhythm is fine, and that means this particular branch that is blocked may be a very tiny thing. And hearts, remember, heart always, atria, they beat together and relax together. And then ventricles, they beat together and relax together. But atria and ventricles do not beat together and relax together. So first atria, then ventricle, then atria again, and ventricle. So when ventricles contract, we just have to touch them with the electrical wire, so any one place, and then they act as a unit and they would contract together. So most of the time, any tiny branch block is nothing. Simple Meerkat says, did you have your vaccine? Not yet. He says, all the rich folks have the vaccine, so maybe I'm not a rich folk. Truth Seeker says, I have relapsing polychondritis, Dr. Montarix, until shortness of breath. I need to transmit symptoms. He said, and Avomatin bad, sad. Finally said, would agree to hospital treatment with antibodies. With antibodies. Is this the best? Antibodies should be given immediately. So that has its benefit. Antibodies should be given before the situation gets into cytokine. And I do not know what is the problem. Why can't tell your doctor that ivermectin, show him NIH's message that they are not against it anymore. Laura says, I'm dizzy, but I'm dizzy for a year now. Laura, are you lying down now and your head without pillow at the heart level? Jim says, after vaccination, if your lab test is strongly positive for antibodies, do you still have 5% chance of mild to moderate infection? The idea of infection or the receiving the virus, we can't stop it. We, even after wearing all those PPEs and everything, people still end up sometimes getting some mistake somewhere and get the virus. So virus entering our mouth or nose or eyes, we can't stop that, whatever vaccines we have. Question is, once it is arrived in us, how do we respond to it? If we are vaccinated, our response would be fast and potent. And that also is if we had the infection before and we have taken care of it. So it's not just a vaccine. So if we have immunoglobulin A, if we are healthy, we have immunoglobulin A, we have the B and T cells, we would just respond very quickly and eradicate the virus even before it causes disease. Disease means COVID is the disease. Disease means when the symptoms are present. And the infection simply means arriving of the virus in our body. So SARS-CoV-2 coming into our body is infection. Can infection happen? Yes. Vaccine or not. Can it become a disease? Meaning, can it create symptoms? Mostly not. My thinking is that even those vaccines that are low efficacy might still allow infection to happen with mild symptoms. And finally, can we transmit it to others? And we are seeing that some of the vaccine companies are now claiming that they are reducing the transmission as well. Nick says that if I get the vaccine, will I be able to go to work or will I be shedding the messenger RNA that could infect other people? So shedding can occur and that is reduced. For example, 67% reduction in one of the vaccines case. That means it's not that it is totally stopped, but it can be reduced. Now that means in some people it would be stopped and in some people they are still just shedding. The reason for that is very simple. When the virus arrives in our body and we have trained our immune system to attack it, our immune system still needs about 24 to 48 hours to gear up and start reacting. Meanwhile, the only thing that can help is the IgA present in the mucosal membranes. So because of that, the virus still gets a chance to do some replication and and be present a little bit and then be shed as well. Hey, Luffy. What happened? Luffy. Sorry. So yes. Suman Sheikh says, is that right? Vaccine has strong adverse effects like paralysis, infertility. So look, vaccines can cause transverse myelitis. And we are seeing that the vaccines are causing or becoming a reason for death as well. So vaccines can have adverse reactions, yes. Coffee is a diuretic, yes. Coffee can lower blood pressure, yes. So if somebody has a lower blood pressure because of coffee, please take water, but not plain. Put some sugar and salt in it, stir it, and then take it. Cher says, 3 days following COVID vaccine, my friend developed pericarditis. His doctor thinks vaccine caused it. If that is so, would it be possible cytokine storm? No, it is not cytokine storm, because if it was cytokine storm, his whole body will be under attack. It is actually, let me share what may be possible. So again, I do not know the patient. I'm not talking about the patient. I'm just going to talk in general that how a virus or a vaccine can cause some tissue damage or attack. So this is called the mimicry. So let's say we have, this is our immune system cell. Let's say this is a macrophage, and the macrophage has a tall like receptor on it, and macrophage is going to capture the virus. But in this case, we have, so let's say these are macrophages, and then it looks like a coronavirus. Actually, these are tall like receptors. Imagine that the lipid nanoparticle arrived and the messenger RNA is here. Messenger RNA allowed the macrophage to make small genetic pieces of antigen that are now presented to naive T cell, and we know the rest of the story here, right? Now, if for some unfortunate reason this small piece looks like a part of our tissue, and can that happen? Yes. So let me explain why. Imagine that we all are given a piece of something which is identical. Let's say a branch. So let's say here is a branch of a plant, and we have made copies of that. Imagine this is virus. So this is a branch, and we are all given this tiny branch, and we have said that, hey, take a knife and chop it up. All of us, when we will chop it up, we'll chop it up into various structures that will not look like each other's choppings. So for example, when I'll chop it up, maybe it would look like this. When you'll chop it up, it may look like this, correct? And everybody would chop it up into a different pattern. So if in some people, this broken down antigen pieces or epitopes created, they are such that they mimic some part of our tissue that may be, for example, cardiac tissue, that may be some other part of our body. So let's say we chopped up, the vaccine created the spike protein. The spike protein was chopped up by our endosome. The epitope that were created looked like this. This was the epitope. I'm simplifying it. And that part looked very similar to this part of the heart as well. Now, when the antibodies are formed against this piece, so let's say this is an antibody, it is formed against this piece. Now that antibody can actually attack this part of the heart as well. This is called molecular mimicry. And now that would cause the heart to swell up and become inflamed and have a problem. Most of the time, most of the time we can give supportive therapy, we can give anti-inflammatories, we can give steroids and other things and kind of reduce that inflammation. Sometimes this can become a permanent problem, and now immune system is just become autoimmune problem for our heart. So this is something that can happen. That is one. Second possibility is that the virus and the antibody, or that antigen antibody complex, that can accidentally get attached to some part of our cardiac tissue or other tissues. And now when this thing is sitting on the cardiac tissue and our immune system decides to attack this area to remove this, that can cause temporary cardiac issues too. So again, don't know what exactly is the mechanism that happened, but something like this can cause any tissue damage. And this can happen with the virus too, and this can happen with the vaccine too. Simple Steve says, Hit the like button. Yes. So if you hit the like button at least, then that tells the YouTube algorithm. Nowadays, I'm becoming more scientific with these videos. That tells the YouTube algorithm that people like it, and YouTube then would suggest it to more people, and that would increase my channel. So thank you. Thank you very much. Handwriting School. Wayne says, wow, I didn't know that. So Laura says, elevated eosinophils autolymphocyte, a bunch of October, other weird things I never had before. That was a month ago. They just rechecked my liver. It's better, whatever that means. Okay, so that simply means if liver is better, that means that your liver enzymes are reducing. That means liver damage is reducing, which is a good thing. David Wickner, thank you for asking. So what was the question? Richard says, like, thank you very much. So HMS Handwriting School says, welcome to my channel. So I usually, anyways, thank you. Coffee can be contraindicated. So David says that Dr. Merrick mentions evidence of hydroxy. So I'll tell you something about hydroxy. I am very comfortable with hydroxy in zinc. I have used it successfully with my patients. There was one case where the whole family started having arrhythmias. Ivermectin has been very, very successful as well. Ivermectin side effects are not as concerning as hydroxy, other than ivermectin should not be given to pregnant women and small children and patients with meningitis. So I am totally for hydroxy. And if you see, I was one of the first ones who started doing hydroxychloroquine discussions. Dr. Merrick does not believe in hydroxychloroquine's activity that much. That doesn't mean that he doesn't think it is useful or not. I think he thinks it is useful, and now I may be putting my words in his mouth. But when I talked with him offline, he had said that there is just so much religion around this that talking about it always becomes a polarization. So I think he just sidestepped it because at that time there was a lot of polarity. And I'll tell you, even with me, when I did my very first hydroxychloroquine video, it is not there anymore on my channel. You know that within 10 hours, it had 140,000 views. I had never had 140,000 views before that or after that in 10 hours for any of my videos. And it had 140,000 views. I was like, wow. But at the same time, the number of threats that I started receiving, that days it was very polarizing. Trump had recently said that hydroxy is good, and then there were some media channels who were just totally going full blast saying it is wrong, and some saying it is right, and people were polarized in the same way. Some folks who believed in Trump's messages, they said this is the correct thing. Some those who were against it, they were just continued to say this is bad. So I received so many threats in those days, in that 10 hours. Threats of death, threats of getting me into a jail, threats of getting my licenses cancelled, threats of suing me after the pandemic is over. There was, you can't imagine the number of threats there. So I became nervous enough that I took the video down. And what happened was, everybody's link, people were sharing it like crazy as well. They all became invalid links. Then I added a bunch of disclosures in front of it, disclaimers, to say this can cause death and all that. And then I put it up again. But by that time, the train had gone. If you watch my hydroxychloroquine video today, you would have a 2-minute long disclaimer in the beginning. That was out of my nervousness that people were just sending me too many threats. So I still stood my ground. Although I took it down, I put it back up. But I stood my ground to say, I believe from a mechanism point of view, it will work. Then I started using it with my patients as well, and they were positive outcome. Then there was a video that I did which went into millions. That was just like with this ivermectin 6 minutes video. There was a 5 or 6 minutes video about the mechanism of actions of ivermectin. So Dr. Merrick said that, hey, to me, it seems like there is a lot of religion around this, and so I'm not going to be entertaining it. Now, if we sit down with him once more and show him all the evidence, I think he would say, yeah, sure, it is good. My opinion has been that, if you may have seen it with many of my guests, I don't challenge them. I don't bring them in to say, I'm going to challenge you for what you're thinking and I'm going to change your opinion. That's not what I bring them in for. I bring them in to share their knowledge. I have my opinion. I like hydroxychloroquine with zinc, and it should be used when needed. Ivermectin is a safe alternative as well, and that is where I stand. Ali G says, hi, Dr. Bean, can I have vaccine while on steroid tablets and antibiotics, or shall I wait for the certain? No, you can have it. So even with the antibiotic steroids, your immune system is not fully just zero. It is suppressed, but not that much. So vaccine can still do its work. At least that is what the trial results have shown. A simple garden says, I stand behind hydroxychloroquine. It saved my life. And I saved so many people with hydroxychloroquine that I would never go against it. Jody, so I have now understood it to ignore. But at that time, when the death threats started coming in, and the threats for getting me into a jail, and the threats for suing me, and I became worried at that time. I had not experienced it before. But I recovered and I continued to go on. Although so people have complained about us to YouTube. We are under audit by some of our approving agencies as well. So there have been some complaints which can result at the end of the day for us to lose our business, or for me to not have a channel going. And that is why you're seeing me adjusting myself to go and create a new channel where I can do some more things at liberty. But oh well, that is what it is. The need at this time is that we all come together and we see how do we save each other. Once that is done, we can then figure out who is in what state. Wayne says, hey, Luffy, I notice you differ with Dr. Merrick on ivermectin dosage, bi-weekly. Yes. So my reasoning for that is the following. My reasoning is that ivermectin's half-life is 18 hours. It can be shed in our excretory systems for days. So considering that it can be reduced to half every 18 hours, my thought was that a therapeutic dose should sustain, and every week it should be given. So that is how, again, as I've said many times, these are the dosages and frequencies that have never been tested before. And because of that, who is doing it correctly is not something that we know at this time. I am just, that I'm very, very careful for my patients. I sometimes am extra careful, where doctors say, I would do it, and you don't do it, and I don't. So because I have used ivermectin in succession in actively infected patients for 10-15 days without seeing any side effects, I feel comfortable giving it once a week. Dr. Merrick, bi-weekly, the original study from Malaysia that showed ivermectin, and the study from Bangladesh that showed ivermectin with doxycycline, those studies used it in a different way. Malaysian study said day 1 and 3, I believe, and then a break for the whole month for prophylaxis. So I have broken from that study as well, and from Dr. Merrick as well, and I do a weekly. That, you can say, is my attempt to keep the patient as much on the safe side as possible. Sandy says, hi, Dr. Bean, can you please clarify? You said SaO2 worrisome at 93, but you mean only in patients without history of pulmonary disease, right? Yes, of course. So patients who have the history of pulmonary disease, they already have a lower oxygen level, and they can probably, there are some who have much lower than that. So yes. And Sandy, thank you very much for coming in yesterday. Nipa says, your lectures are lifesaver. I'm very grateful to you. Thank you very much, Nipa. Sandy says, Dr. Bean, you're a true saint to put up with the nonsense. Thank you. We need a Luffy cam. Yes. Luffy is right now fighting with Kyrie. So what, for the new studio, I had placed a new chair over here. And so they have found a new thing to play with. So one is hiding behind the chair and the other one is attacking it. So they both are actually playing here and running around. So this is their way to celebrate that there is a new chair. Can Luffy get his own channel? Absolutely. I can make a channel for Luffy. Wonder if Luffy has Ned Dr. Moran's cat. His cat moonwalks on the fireplace mantle. Luffy is everywhere. He used to be on top of these bookcases all the time. And so, plus I have my fireplace over there, and he used to jump on top of there is a tiny slot. He would go and sit in that slot. Absolutely. We should do that too. So Excalibur says, to poop or not to poop? That is a question. What do you think of healthy donor giving stool to a severely ill diarrhea COVID-19 patient? This is something that a doctor should decide. So if we are thinking that this is something to do with the biota, then sure. I don't see any issue with this one. So Zelena says, where is your personal channel? So it is interesting. I have to actually look it up by myself too. So I know that this is my personal channel. So if you go to YouTube, how do you find it? And you say Mobeen Sayed. So this is Dr. Bean Medical Lectures. This is me live right now. But that other channel, which is also Mobeen Sayed, is not showing up. So I'll just give you my channel's link. It only has one video, but I'm going to do more here, which I will probably not be afraid if they shut down this channel. Cool. So I just place that link here. So John Snyder says, check your subscribers, good vibes. Let me check. 88 now. So yesterday there were just 2, now 90. So we are increasing. And yesterday when I uploaded this video of Ivermectin there, I thought nobody's going to watch it. But since yesterday, I think there are 11 or 1200 views. Nicolene Alma says, your channel and chats in the beginning, thank you for sharing and discussing current ideas and keeping an open mind. Great to hear your personal experience. Best wishes for Bernie from Brunei. Thank you very much. Do you know something that I was actually going through the work I have done? I have gone over more than 3,000 studies now in this 1 year and then presented them. So went over them, highlighted them, collected information from there, and then presented them. More than 3,000 studies. Wayne says, my Australian friend keeps reminding me that he was born upside down. Okay. Laura come back here and again. Just there are many long haulers here, and many of us have improved over time, but it can be a slow process. And we will continue to help with the long hauling. Excalibur, stop being a troll. Yes, definitely. Thank you. So B says, is it Dr. Bean? Yeah, so that is my personal channel, Mubin Sayed. Not only I'm going to put some medical things there, but some things, for example, I want to talk about aging. I want to talk about cancer. I want to talk about diabetes, hypertension. And some of those things, I want to talk more about supplements or herbs. So some of those things cannot go here on the medical topics. So I wanted to kind of separate, because what is happening is, let's say if somebody does not believe in herbs, they simply click on the video and report it, regardless of what that video is, regardless of what research is in there. And that just keeps bringing the channel down. So I thought I'll separate out some of the topics. Jim says, if they shut you down, will they come to your door to take your YouTube trophy away? I would probably just send it back to them by myself. Simple yes, we want to hear about your other yes. So I'm going to start doing some of those discussions there. William Goff says, we have discussed a lot of meds and vitamins: ivermectin, bromhexin, budesonide, fluvoxamine, colchicine, black seed, many vitamins. Is there a top 10 list so we can avoid polypharmacy? Yes. So for me, what I do is I don't miss taking vitamin D. And with vitamin D, I have to take K2, magnesium, copper, and sometimes I take selenium. But this is kind of a package. I take calcium as well, but in RDA. So this is a package. These things have to go with vitamin D. In addition to that, I take anti-inflammatory or ROS, reactive oxygen species reducing supplements. That can be CoQ10 or glutathione. I usually prefer CoQ10. If you are taking glutathione, so CoQ10, glutathione, NSE, and vitamin C, you can take one of these three, these four. So my preference is vitamin C, but I also want CoQ10, because what vitamin C does not do is the electron chain structures integrity, and CoQ10 can do that. So if you're going to take lesser, than vitamin C and CoQ10. In addition to that, I take black seed oil. So I take 1 teaspoon every day, and I don't miss that. Honey, I do not take that often. And then I think this is the basic structure for me that I try not to miss. Thank you, Zelina. So Golmuk, for me, what I do is, other than vitamin D, that taking in higher doses was important for me to keep my levels above 40. Other than D, I take all other things in usual RDA doses. So whatever is on the label, whatever is RDA for that day, I take that. So Nancy, yes, NAC, glutathione, and CoQ10 are kind of in the same camp. So you can take any one of them. The benefit of NAC is that NAC can be regenerated. So if you take one time NAC, it can continue to help with the reactive oxygen species multiple times. It can be regenerated. Glutathione cannot be regenerated. And of course, one thing that I forgot, I take quercetin and zinc daily as well. So that's like hydroxychloroquine and zinc. So the question was, can we reduce it? So once again, I think I've discussed all of those. So Carlos says, any interaction concern with citrulline and ivermectin. Carlos, I'll have to look them up. So Denise, SOD or superoxide dismutase is again for reactive oxygen species. So if you're taking vitamin C or glutathione or NSC or CoQ10, you are taking care of it. If you're taking melatonin on top of it, then you're taking care of it. Now these are 5. So take any one of them and that should work. I take vitamin C for sure, and then any one of the remaining. How can I find a doctor who is treating long haulers near me? I am not sure. I know that Dr. Yo and Dr. Bruce Patterson have been working on some labs, and they are creating a list of people who are helping long haulers. So can you please look Dr. Yo up on Twitter and then talk with him? They have a site as well. Yes, EGCG with the green tea is kind of another thing for quercetin. So B says that after quercetin use, the limbs fall asleep. So don't take it. Take EGCG. Sometimes first, sometimes last says, would taking melatonin, having an anti-inflammatory action, suppress a stronger immune response of a COVID vaccine? Thanks. No. So I want to make sure that this concern is addressed. Our body, when it is making oxygen, reactive oxygen species, most of the time it makes them in small chambers, in small vacuoles. So it makes it inside here, or it makes it in electron chains. So these are controlled environments. And normally it uses them, it builds them, it uses them for energy production and killing the pathogens. Some of those reactive oxygen species, they run away. And those runaway items are the ones that can cause damage. And we have to neutralize them. So to give you another example, let's say there is a lion, and the lion is dangerous and it's going to eat people. So what happens is, maybe it is in jungle, or let's say if it is in community, then it is inside some home, and we just keep it there. And as long as it is there, it is fine. But if it comes out on the road and it is running around, now we want to catch it. That is the same thing with the reactive oxygen species. As long as they are within their own containers and doing their function, we want them, we produce them, we use them, and we are not afraid of them. But when they escape their containers and now they come into the cell or cause a cell membrane damage, or even come out of the cell membrane and cause damage to the tissue, these are the ones we want to capture. So all of these reactive oxygen species killers would actually kill those vagabonds, these runaway reactive oxygen species, but not the ones that are needed, because the ones that are needed are in their right compartments. So Rizabit says, I found out I have a vitamin C defect, several vitamin D defect, inositol, etc., 23andMe genetic test run through, found my fitness genetic report, helped me to see my gene defects. Very interesting. Cool. So we are at 7:58. A few more questions, then we break. So Texas says, can zinc possibly interfere with vaccine spike production? I may have missed this one. Zinc's and vaccine. Zinc's role is to disrupt RDRP. RDRP has nothing to do with the vaccine's function. So if I share that for a second, my screen, let's see. So this is, let's say, a cell, and here it gets the messenger RNA of the virus. So the SARS-CoV-2 is able to enter the cell, and now the RNA is present. This RNA is going to work with the ribosome of our cell to make a big polyprotein. That big polyprotein will have RDRP separated from it automatically, and 3-chymotrypsin-like protease is separated from it automatically. So imagine that the virus uses our ribosome to make a Trojan horse. In that Trojan horse are hiding a lot of enzymes that can be dangerous for us. 2 of them detach automatically, and then they start opening up the rest of the horse. So that is RDRP and 3-chymotrypsin-like proteases. RDRP is disrupted by zinc. So if zinc was present here, it would disrupt the RDRP and say, you are not going to do what you are about to do. And that would reduce the viral replication and hinder the virus. Now imagine if we have this cell here, and this one has messenger RNA for spike protein. Now this messenger RNA is going to go and attach to our ribosome as well and make spikes. These spikes that are made, they do not need any RDRP, they do not need any 3-chymotrypsin-like enzyme to further do their function. They would be immediately injected into an endosome, which is like a thresher, which is like a shredder, and endosome is just immediately going to shred these proteins, and then we will present them on the surface. So because there is no RDRP, zinc is not going to disrupt this part of the function. So hopefully that is clear. So if you are okay, you're very welcome. So one more question, and then we stop. So the Niru says, does Chromostat Mescillate prevent viral entry to the host cell by blocking TMP Rssd? Yes, so there is bromhexin, Chromostat Mescillate. From a mechanism point of view, some studies have shown them to do that. And some studies show bromhexin not to do that. So because of that, there is still lots of yes, it does it, or no, it doesn't do it. But from a mechanism point of view, yes, that is what its function is. Thank you very much. So how about we stop for now, and then we will continue tomorrow with the open forum. Last week's Twitter questions, remaining questions are still out there. So I'm going to answer those, and we'll go from there. And if you get a chance, check out my other video, one video on that new channel, and I would continue to then add some things there too. So thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you very much, everyone, and stay safe and happy. Love you and all, and I would see you tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, and share. There are 3 links in this video. One is if you wanted to buy me a coffee. There's one more if you wanted to become my patron. And then there is a link if you just wanted to support my work. So thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.